In March, the Russian military began moving men and material into Venezuela. The situation there was already tragic and dangerous. Now it's much worse. The Russians are there to strengthen the murderous regime of Nicolas Maduro. Many are asking why, but to me, the answer is obvious. Venezuela has the world's largest known oil reserves, and Moscow wants to control that oil. Ironically, the reserve of fuel is not helping to keep the lights on. Since March 7th, much of Venezuela has been without power. Until the blackouts, Venezuelans with U.S. dollars were able to buy staples. Many of them shared food and other essentials with their neighbors. But with the blackouts, stores remained closed. Trucks can't move goods because there is no electricity to pump fuel out of the underground tanks. Without power, there is no refrigeration. People are struggling to keep food edible. Venezuelans are scavenging through trash and landfills. With no power to pump water, the taps in their homes are dry. In Caracas, thousands trek to a nearby mountain spring. But the lines are long, and water is difficult to carry. They spend all day waiting for their turn, then carry home only a few gallons of water. Sanitary conditions are atrocious. That leads to increasing levels of sickness at a time when medical help is almost non-existent. Despite all of this, Maduro's government blocked attempts to send aid to the Venezuelan people. Thankfully, that may have changed. Late last week, the Red Cross announced it will soon be moving aid into the country. It received permission from both Maduro and the opposition. That's big news. It will begin to provide some measure of relief to suffering Venezuelans. And it is a tacit admission by Maduro that his people are in dire straits. In some cases, they are starving. Analysts have likened today's Venezuela to a country in the Middle Ages. But people 1,000 years ago knew how to survive without modern aids such as refrigeration. Today, living off the land is a lost art. Even more important, in the Middle Ages, there were fewer people. In the year 1000, there were 250 million people living on planet Earth. Today, there are 7.5 billion. Back then, if someone had to knock down a tree for firewood, it was no big deal. But today's vast population cannot be supported directly by the land. Frankly, that's just one reason the Green New Deal would be such a disaster. Without fossil fuel to burn, trees would be cut down to burn for warmth and cooking. The world's forests would be depleted in a matter of months. That would be fatal for all life on Earth. The ecological damage of prolonged power outage is beyond calculation. Until recently, Maduro's military kept him in power. But some members of the military began to turn against him. And that's when Russia stepped in. Russia's military presence in Venezuela is keeping this illegal regime in power. We've seen this before. Russia did the same thing in Syria, and it worked. With Syria, Russia controls some of the world's most strategic territory. Now, they're trying it in the Western Hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine has been in force since 1823. It basically says that the United States will not tolerate European nations interfering in this hemisphere. Russia's military presence in Venezuela is a direct challenge to America's sphere of influence. White House National Security Advisor John Bolton warned, "We strongly caution actors external to the Western Hemisphere against deploying military assets to Venezuela." President Trump said bluntly, Russia has to get out. When asked how he would get them out, the president said, "We'll see. All options are open." Is a Cuban Missile Crisis brewing in Venezuela? Will the U.S. blink first, or will Russia? America's great military superiority has slipped over the last few years.
God so loved his people that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believed in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. God does not love this world. God never sent Jesus to die for this world. Jesus died because he was 2,000 years too soon to bring about the end of the civilization of the Jews. Go ahead. He never was on no cross. There was no Calvary for that Jesus. Early one Saturday morning, our Savior taught us, when he found out he was 2,000 years too soon to end the civilization of the Jews, he decided that he would give his life for the truth that he taught, that his name would live until the one that he prefigured came into existence. And that's why the Quran says Jesus and his mother Mary were a sign. Jesus didn't die on Calvary. He died in front of an old Jewish store that was boarded up, and the Roman soldiers came to get him.
News just broke today that you have a special team looking into why the FBI opened an investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 elections. I wonder if you can share with this committee who's on that team, why you felt a need to form that kind of a team, and what you intend to be the scope of their investigation.
Yeah, as I said in my confirmation hearing, I am going to be reviewing both the genesis and the conduct of intelligence activities directed at the Trump campaign during 2016. A lot of this has already been investigated, and a substantial portion of it has been investigated and is being investigated by the Office of Inspector General at the department. But one of the things I want to do is pull together all the information from the various investigations that have gone on, including on the Hill and in the department, and see if there are any remaining questions to be addressed.
And can you share with us why you feel a need to do that?
Well, for the same reason we're worried about foreign influence in elections. We want to make sure that during an election, I think spying on a political campaign is a big deal. It's a big deal. Generation I grew up in, which was the Vietnam War period, people were all concerned about spying on anti-war people and so forth by the government. And there were a lot of rules put in place to make sure that there's an adequate basis before our law enforcement agencies get involved in political surveillance. I'm not suggesting that those rules were violated, but I think it's important to look at that. And I'm not talking about the FBI necessarily, but intelligence agencies more broadly.
So you're not suggesting, though, that spying occurred?
I don't, I guess you could, I think spying did occur. Yes, I think spying did occur.
Ms. Owens, I'm sorry. We just started recording. Would you like time to respond to that?
Yes, I think it's pretty apparent that Mr. Liu believes that black people are stupid and will not pursue the full clip in its entirety. He purposely presented an extracted clip.
The witness will suspend for a moment. It is not proper to refer disparagingly or to a member of the committee. The witness will not do that again. Witness may continue.
Sure, even though I was called despicable.
Witness may not refer to a member of the committee as stupid.
I didn't refer to him as stupid. That's not what I said. That's not what I said at all. You didn't listen to what I said. May I continue?
Please.
As I said, he is assuming that black people will not go pursue the full 2-hour clip. And he purposefully he cut off, and you didn't hear the question that was asked of me. He's trying to present as if I was launching a defense of Hitler in Germany, when in fact, the question that was asked of me was pertaining to whether or not I believed that whether or not I believed in nationalism, and that nationalism was bad. And what I responded to was that I do not believe that we should be characterizing Hitler as a nationalist. He was a homicidal, psychopathic maniac that killed his own people. A nationalist would not kill their own people. That is exactly what I was referring to in the clip, and he purposely wanted to give you a cut-up similar to what they do to Donald Trump to create a different narrative. That was unbelievably dishonest, and he did not allow me to respond to it, which is worrisome and should tell you a lot about where people are today in terms of trying to drum up narratives. By the way, I would like to also add that I work for Prager University, which is run by an Orthodox Jew. Not a single Democrat showed up to the embassy opening in Jerusalem. I sat on a plane for 18 hours to make sure that I was there. I'm deeply offended by the insinuation of revealing that clip without the question that was asked of me.
Thanks, Mrs. Owens, and I yield the remainder of my time.
Madam Secretary, can I ask you, this is a question I get a lot because I've lived a life in politics, but nothing like yours. Which is closer to reality of life in politics? Which TV show? The West Wing or Veep?
Oh, probably Game of Thrones.
Wow.
At least in my experience.
I was thinking about that bright young Irish actress in Schitt's Creek. That might be the best. If I could be serious a minute, the most realistic show on television, in my opinion, and you can say I'm self-interested, is Madam Secretary. It's the best. It's the one that's most like a functioning government and how governments relate to each other and how these diplomatic fights play out in private and, you know, with stuff that could actually happen. There's a bunch of stuff there that's scary that could actually happen.
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something.
So you have no idea right now?
There's another one. Another plane just hit. Some people did something.
Oh my goodness, there is smoke pouring out the Pentagon.
Some people did something. It just flew straight into it.
Does someone have a...
An initial investigation into last week's failed landing of the Israeli lunar module Genesis found that a technical malfunction led to the main engine shut down during the critical last minute of descent. Dr. Edo Entebbe, Space IL CEO, said one of the spacecraft's measurement units that gauges acceleration malfunctioned during the landing maneuver. When engineers commanded the sensor to restart, it reset the lander's computer, leading to a cascade of events that caused the main engine to shut down. Genesis hit the lunar surface at 500 kilometers per hour. The count is in and the right wing has it. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has an absolute majority of 65 seats, giving him the ability to form the next government. All the right wing and religious parties declared their support for Netanyahu before President Rivlin, a necessary part of the political process in Israel. Only 45 Knesset members recommended to the president that blue and white party leader Benny Gantz be given the right to form a government. The Palestinian Authority has turned to Russia to counter the strong relationship between Israel and the U.S. In the interview published Monday on the Russian news site Sputnik, PA Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki said, "We are ready to talk with Israelis without any conditions as long as the invitation comes from President Putin, as long as President Putin is the host." The PA cut off all official relations with the U.S. in December of 2017, when President Trump announced the U.S. Embassy moved to Jerusalem. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said that cutting U.S. aid to Israel should be considered as a means to signal American disapproval of Israeli policies. Would you be in favor of reducing U.S. military or economic aid to Israel? She was asked on a Yahoo News podcast on Sunday. "I think it's certainly on the table. I think it's something that can be discussed," the freshman Democratic Congresswoman replied. Ocasio-Cortez made her comments in the context of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's campaign pledge to annex Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria, a policy she opposes. Hundreds gathered on Monday near the Temple Mount to reenact the ancient Passover ritual. During the days when the Jewish temple stood, the ritual took place on the eve of the Jewish holiday. Many rabbis criticized the reenactment, saying it must wait until the temple is rebuilt and reconsecrated. Others, however, countered that it is being carried out in the spirit of education and to instill the desire to rebuild the ancient Jewish temple.
I do have the right to fight back, and I'm fighting back not for me. I'm fighting back for the people of this country.
No collusion.
There was no collusion.
No collusion.
No collusion.
There is absolutely no collusion.
There's no collusion. The fact is there is no collusion.
No collusion. There's no collusion.
This is a investigation where many, many millions of dollars has been spent, and there's no collusion.
This is a win for this president who, for now 2 years, has essentially been screaming there was no Russia collusion. He is backed up by Mueller.
Maybe every time he said no collusion, like more than 231 times so far, maybe every time he said no collusion, he was telling the truth.
This was an illegal takedown that failed. And hopefully somebody's going to look at the other side.
We are finding out even more devastating information about how the deep state protected Hillary Clinton before turning their forces against Donald Trump. This is also a huge development just out today, and we're going to break it down for you. The Freedom of Information Act request by Judicial Watch from 2016, well, today bore fruit. It forced the release of 422 pages of FBI documents surrounding Platte River Network.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kelly. And they're having a good day. I'm having a good day, too. It was called No Collusion, No Obstruction. There never was, by the way, and there never will be. And we do have to get to the bottom of these things, I will say. And this should never happen. I say this in front of my friends, wounded warriors, and I just call them warriors because we just shook hands and they look great. They look so good, so beautiful. But I say it in front of my friends, this should never happen to another president again. This hoax, this should never happen to another president again. Thank you.
That's your headline. Report, no collusion.
The Russia investigation is finally over. The news caught many people by surprise.
This is a win for this president who, for now 2 years, has essentially been screaming there was no Russia collusion. He is backed up by Mueller.
The results are in. And take a look at the headlines from the Washington Post to the New York Post. They're what the president wanted.
The president has just been exonerated. I mean, can we just take a step back and focus on the fact that this is a nearly 2-year investigation that has swirled around the president since day one of his presidency, and he has just been exonerated.
And Robert Mueller gave a very clear answer, and that was that there was no collusion.
And it is, in fairness, what the president has been saying.
This was what all the questions surrounded the president.
They've cleared
Did he obstruct justice? They just cleared him.
This is a huge win, hands down, black and white, for President Trump.
This is the success of the Democrats in the first 100 days in Congress. Here it is. There's nothing.
Can I ask you?
אזרחי ישראל, אחינו ואחיותינו בעולם היהודי,
בכל שנה בליל הסדר אני מתרגש עמוקות. חג הפסח נוגע בשורשי הזהות הלאומית שלנו. עוד לפני אלפי שנים הנפנו את נס החופש והדרור. יצאנו מעבדות לחירות, משעבוד לעצמאות. התחלנו במסע הארוך ממצרים הביתה לציון וירושלים. לסיפור המופלא של עמנו אין אח ורע. גם בגלות המרה, בתנאים קשים מנשוא, שמרנו על ייחודנו. לא נכנענו, המשכנו להאמין. דור אחר דור קראנו בהגדה לשנה הבאה בירושלים הבנויה. דבקנו בתקווה. והתקווה, ידידיי, התקווה התגשמה. תקענו יתד מחודשת בנחלת אבותינו. הקמנו מדינה דמוקרטית, חופשית, תוססת. יש לה הישגים מופלאים בכל קנה מידה. אנו הופכים את ישראל בהתמדה ובשיטתיות לכוח עולמי עולה, למדינה נערצת על מדינות רבות מאוד, כולל מדינות בעולם הערבי והמוסלמי. בד בבד אנו עומדים איתן מול מבקשי נפשנו. בכל דור ודור קמים עלינו לכלותנו, זה נכון, אך הודות לצה"ל ולזרועות הביטחון, וכמובן בעזרת השם, אנו מגינים על עצמנו בנחישות מפני אויבינו. כפי שכוחות האביב פורצים החוצה בבת אחת, כך העוצמות הכבירות שתמונות בנו נגלות לעין היום לעיני כל. מדינת ישראל מפיצה סביבה אור גדול. בחג הפסח נהיה גאים במורשתנו, נעמיק את האחדות בתוכנו, ונצא החוצה אל הטבע הפורח, לטייל במרחבי ארצנו. אני מאחל לכולכם מעומק ליבי פסח כשר, אני מאחל לכולכם מעומק ליבי פסח שמח.
couple of weeks ago, we broke a story exposing the terrorist connections of Rashida Tlaib's inner circle, but that was just the beginning. We've uncovered information about her family that will shock you. Her mother and husband belong to the Tlaib family from a village in the West Bank called Beita. This is a place that's known as a flashpoint for extreme violence and a hotspot for terrorism. Here's her husband, Fayez Tlaib, liking and commenting on a photograph of terror mastermind Yasser Arafat, a man whose organization, the PLO, is credited as giving birth to modern terrorism. However, he's old news as Rashida divorced him, but she's still very close to her siblings. Here's one of them, her brother Ibrahim El Abed, liking a post that claims the Zionists control the media. But it's Rashida's other brother, Nada, who really caught our attention. On a news story that says Canada stands with Israel, he announced Canada will soon be a Muslim-majority country. Pretty scary, huh? The brother of the first female Palestinian member of Congress is bragging about Islamic dominance over Canada. In this post, he pushes the deeply offensive anti-Semitic lie that today's Jews aren't really Jews at all, but imposters. And in this one, he glorifies Hamas by calling them heroes. That's right, Rashida's brother just called the Palestinian terror group Hamas heroes. What worried us even more than that was that 7 years ago, Rashida claimed that her sister Layla was on a no-fly list. Now this list is maintained by the FBI's Terrorist Screening Center. We have no idea why Layla was on the list, as when Fox News asked, both her and Rashida declined to comment. You see, we can't judge Rashida by what she says online, as she's really careful, but her friends and family aren't, and they shamelessly publicize their views on Jews and terrorism, and it's these comments that really concern us.
Hay intercambio de disparos.
Porque los tomaron, están a favor del gobierno. ¡Libertad ahora! ¡Libertad! ¡Libertad!
Hay intercambio de disparos. Hay intercambio de disparos entre la Guardia Nacional dentro de la carrota. Hay disparos de FAL, hay disparos de FAL. Hay disparos de FAL, fusil, disparos de fusil. ¡Únete a la columna! Disparo de fusil, disparo de fusil. El distribuidor Altamira.
Sí, sí. De hecho, esa cúpula que lleva arriba, mira, ahí vemos esa imagen que se repite. Lamentándolo mucho, que se repite. Sí. Esto no es la primera vez que sucede. Es lamentable lo que sucede el día de hoy. Han sido arrollados algunas personas en el...